It's a rare delight to witness political theatre that not only entertains but also educates, informs. And yesterday, on Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg, Stephen Flynn delivered both with clinical precision, I would expect no less, while Nigel Farage preened for the cameras, grandstanding as if Reform UK were already at the gates of Downing Street. It was the SNP's Westminster leader who, as ever, stole the scene with icy clarity and unapologetic truth-telling. So begin with the core of Flynn's criticism. Brexit has failed. And not just failed abstractly, it has shrunk the UK, it's impoverished working people, it's derailed entire sectors of our economy. He says Britain is broken. No melodrama, just a statement of empirical fact. The public finances are a mess, inflation is still pinching household budgets, and yet the man most responsible for this act of economic self-harm sits smugly in studio chairs, unaccountable and worse, ascendant and fated, fated week after miserable week by the BBC. If he's not on Laura Kuenssberg, he's on Question Time. I don't understand it when there are so many better performers on the BBC, or in politics, like Stephen Flynn.
Finances are in a mess and the politicians are lost as to how you get out of that particular mess. And yet the guy who orchestrated it, who I've just sat and watched over there, doesn't have to face the consequences of the economic damage that Brexit has done to the
Flynn
UK.
reminded viewers that Farage, the self-appointed People's Tribune, orchestrated Brexit, then watched as the damage took root. Small businesses suffocated by red tape, energy prices rising in part because of lost trade efficiencies and freedom of movement, a lifeline for Scotland's shrinking workforce, cruelly discarded. And where Flynn went beyond mere criticism was in his diagnosis of Farage's current project, the sabotage of Scotland's future. Reform UK, he noted, has pledged to gut subsidies for renewables and dismiss Scotland's green energy revolution as a net stupid zero. The consequences? Up to 47,000 jobs put at risk, a thriving sector, one of the few promising economic success stories of the post-Brexit Britain, thrown under a bus to indulge fossil fuel nostalgia and anti-environmental populism. Flynn didn't mince words. You're going to leave cities like mine, Aberdeen, looking like Detroit in 30 years' time. That's not rhetoric. That's a warning based on precedent where short-sighted energy policy meets economic desertion, industrial collapse follows. And then came Flynn's challenge to Labour, a masterstroke of political pressure. He urged Keir Starmer to stop cowering before Brexit orthodoxy and confront the truth. You cannot defeat Farage while defending the consequences of his greatest triumph. Realigning with the EU is not ideological nostalgia, it's economic realism. If Labour continues to dodge the B word, it forfeits the authority to lead a meaningful recovery. Flynn, it must be said, cuts a compelling figure, composed, articulate, often dryly humorous, as when he quipped that he'd be washing his hair when Trump visits the UK in September, but he's also increasingly becoming the opposition voice of fact-based resistance to the Faragiest agenda. He called out the Reform leaders' plan to revive coal, a dead industry, economically unviable, economically, environmentally disastrous, and pointed instead to the Scottish renewables sector where growth in the past decade has outpaced fossil fuel jobs. In other words, Scotland is already building the future that Farage wants to demolish. There was also a telling moment of steel. I'm not scared of Nigel Farage, Flynn said. What worries me is his politics, and he's right. Farage's ideology thrives on simplification, distortion and scapegoating. It's a politics of grievance, but never of responsibility. Stephen Flynn brought something yesterday to the broadcast that has been sorely lacking in British political discourse: accountability, specificity and moral seriousness. I have admired Stephen Flynn for a long time. I don't necessarily share his views, I don't support the SNP, but my goodness, this is somebody who knows how to perform in the political arena. He reminded viewers that you cannot solve the crises affecting Britain, afflicting the UK, from the NHS shortages to economic stagnation, without facing up to their origins. And in the case of Brexit, that means putting Farage front and centre in the dock. Not trying to out Farage, but trying to get Farage to accept the blame for what he's done to this country. In short, while Farage grandstands, Flynn governs. He speaks not just for Scottish independence, but for a politics rooted in facts, in economic foresight and moral clarity. And yesterday on national television, he didn't merely challenge Farage, he eviscerated him. The question now is not whether Stephen Flynn can hold the line. The question is, will Labour, and indeed the wider British political class, finally find the courage to follow his lead? And incidentally, his example. Because unlike Kemi Badenoch, he doesn't need to cling to a script and to read it badly. Stephen Flynn has it in his head.